Cinderella, you can live happily ever after. It's like a dream. A wonderful dream come true. For more information, visit boosterseat.gov. This has been a message from the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Ad Council.
Wake up with America's Morning News, 6 a.m. on KSMX.
Morning news. Wow. Coast to coast.
Neil Slade, as we talk about his brand new work, The Secret of the Dormant Brain Lab. We'll be back with Neil in just a moment on Coast to Coast AM. It's convenient, isn't it, to have a small radio next to you, wherever you may go, sleeping, traveling, but it can be hard to find one that gets good reception and audio clarity. Let me tell you about the SW Pocket. It's a very small AM and FM shortwave pocket-sized radio that gets good reception compared to other pocket-sized radios, and it also has great audio for its size. The SW Pocket, listen to this, 200 memories. That's enough to save all of your favorite stations. It's more memories than I have in my own head. It's also a great travel-sized radio. It's been rated as one of the best travel-sized radios you can get for under $200. Small enough to tuck into your purse, briefcase, carry-on bag, runs on 2 AA batteries, and will last up to 70 hours, and there is an optional AC adapter. Treat yourself to an excellent pocket-sized radio with the SW Pocket for only $49.95. Simply call C. Crane at 1-800-522-8863. That's 1-800-522-8863 or go online. ccradio.com. End of America as we know it. Recently, one of the most widespread financial journals in the country informed how a single event in the next 12 months will likely shape the very foundation of our nation. It has nothing to do with war or the stock market, yet it will change the whole way of life. Could this really happen? The same man was among the first to predict the collapse of Gene and properties a few years ago. In fact, Barron's called his work a dire prophecy. Will be the most important event in our nation's past 50 years. This journal has created an you can watch online for free. You may never think about America the same way again. America38.com. Please note this video contains offensive material. Viewer discretion is advised. Watch this free video at www.endofamerica38.com. That's endofamerica38.com. Wake up with America's Morning News, 6 a.m. on KSMX. And welcome back, Neil Slade, our special guest. His work with The Secret of the Dormant Brain Lab. Neil, let's get into that if we can for a minute. So, what is the Dormant Brain Lab?
Okay, this was a brain behavior facility that was run by a fellow named T.B.A. Lingo. He was a veteran of World War II. And when he got back from the war, he asked himself, why must I kill my brother in war? And he was studying brain science at the University of Chicago after the war, and he asked his professor of neurology, he said, why do people do this? What is it in the human brain, and not in the human brain, what is it that makes people in mass numbers try to vaporize each other during conflict, during wars? Why is there a war? And his professor said, well, we don't know the answer to that here at the university, but if there is an answer to that question, it's in the human brain. And he said to Lingo, he said, you know, if you want to find the answer to that question, you can stay here at the university, but that's very slow, because if you want to find the answer to that fast, if you want to go fast, you're going to have to start your own research facility. So Lingo decided he wanted to go fast, and he went into show business to raise money, and within 3 years he had enough money to buy 250 acres of pristine wilderness 40 miles west of Denver, and that's where he set up his facility. And it was set up so that people could come to this unspoiled bit of nature and study themselves, and they could study brain science and do whatever it took to answer ultimately that question that he asked the professor, which was, you know, what is this kill instinct in the human brain? But beyond that, people would come up and sign up for a 6-week brain in nature course in which they would remove themselves from the chaos and the commotion and all the distractions in the city, and they would stay up on this mountain and in quiet nature and in solitude, and they could discover who they were. They could study neurology and answer whatever questions that they had about themselves and about brain and behavior, you know, in general. And Ringo ran this facility for 35 years up until his death, which occurred in 1993.
He was just a lunatic.
Oh, I mean, he was his work, and it was such a wonderful experience for me to be a part of that. He invited me to come to the Brain Lab in 1981, and I stayed with him for 11 years, and ultimately, and you know, shortly became his sort of go-between between the city and the wilderness. And together we did workshops. We devised his methods of educating people, and you know, a lot went on during that 11 years that I spent with him. And that's what I wrote about in the book that you mentioned online.
You're not a scientist, but you must have learned more than most scientists.
Well, you know, like I said, back in 1989, I was describing functions of the amygdala to which people are just reading about now and on the internet. So he was far, far ahead of his time. There are many things that he spoke of and taught that, you know, it was decades later before the more conservative research establishments, you know, caught up with him. And indeed, his professor at the University of Chicago was right. He went fast. He was connecting the dots 30 years before anyone else was doing it.
Was he doing research there, Neil?
Well, what he did was he studied people who, he had sort of a dual function as a director of the Brain Lab. People would come and study brain with him at the facility, but he would also study people who were participants. And so he had far cabinets and file cabinets filled with his observational studies of the people who spent time with him, as well as records that people kept for themselves in their own self-studies. So there was, you know, he was a scientist not in the academic kind of white lab